Hi, this is Nathan Torno, again with the StatCrunch development team. And this is the second training session on the main StatCrunch website. And in particular, it's going to focus on QA, quality assurance-based items that need to be addressed. So last time we covered the home page, we covered the Explore and My StatCrunch menu. And specifically, we hit data, results, reports, surveys. The only thing really left out is groups. So we'll start there today. And again, the difference between Explorer and My StatCrunch is kind of like a cloud-based storage location for your own personal files, for data, results, reports. Whereas Explorer, you're exploring through other people's shared results. Again, the ones that they decide to share, data sets, results, reports, surveys. And again, we in the first KT session, we hit those. So if you want to review on that, and the first KT session should help you with that. So what we're going to do is, let's just go ahead and do Explore groups for this. And what you'll see here, we'll try to find a group. So I'm going to actually look for a group I know about. So I'm going to look for instructor group. So again, these are groups that are shared online, that are public. And what basically the group is, I'll show you in a second once we get there. StatCrunch instructor group is what I was looking at. It's one of the biggest group as far as members. We're going to click on this. So it'll be hard to see this. Let me actually sign out and go to another account just so we can actually get a better feel for what the groups look like. So I'm going to go and switch to my account for this. So I'm just going to go into my groups and we'll just look at that instead. So what groups are, it's a common location in StatCrunch to share information within a network of people. So if I want to have a location that stores data sets, results, surveys, reports, all with other people, this is the way to do so. So a common way this is used, and I'll go and show the previous semester. So I teach an intro stat class at a local community college. I'll go and click on my group from a past semester here. So what you'll see in this group is I have 25 members. So I had about 25 students in my class. I'm in control of this group, so I have the ability to manage, to add different things, and also to kick out members potentially. Again, we have thumbnails. That's just an identifier for the group, nothing special. So for me, this is a specific class I was teaching, and what I did was I loaded data sets and surveys that were used in class. So at some point in the semester, we used a roller coaster data set. We used a movie budget data set. I use those as demonstrations in the class. So as a result, I put the data set here in case my students have the ability to access it. So now if I'm one of these members that joins this group, I have the ability to come to this same group location. I can go to the same URL, and I'm able to access the same data sets that are shared with other people. So I would kind of consider a group to be, it's kind of like its own little My StatCrunch folder for a group of people beyond just an individual. So this is our closest equivalence to Google Docs when you decide to share something with somebody else. You also see surveys out here. So we had different activities in class that had surveys connected to them. So my students would go in here, let's say they're doing the chapter 4 survey. They would enter the responses for them. So I just asked them some general things. I wanted to try to get a relationship built between sleep and how tired you were. Didn't really work as hard as I wanted it to be, but it was a useful activity to show it's not easy to get a regression equation. But long story short, I mean, my students went to this group, found the survey, and from there they took the survey and we were able to analyze the results in class. I'm not going to show the group creation. It's a very similar process to what we saw for results, actually in particular reports and surveys. Same kind of layout to it. Basically, you just create a group and then you start adding things to it in particular. So one question might be, how do you add information to a group? So that's probably the best question to ask for this. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to open up a previous data set. So again, I did My StatCrunch data. And I'm just going to open up a data set that might be of interest for a group. So let's just do cereal brands. So let's say I'm going to talk in class about the serial data set. I'm going to use it for some kind of analysis. What I can do is under data properties, if I edit the properties here, what you'll notice is there's two different sharing capabilities. So again, this is under data properties. There's share with everyone, which is turned on already. So that means it's searchable under the Explore menu. There's also share with groups though, in particular. So what I can do is I can scroll through all the groups I'm connected with. So these don't have to necessarily be groups. So this constructor group, I'm not in control of, but most of these other groups I am the administrator for. So it doesn't matter either way. If you're part of a group, you should have the ability to share within that group. So let's just find that semester I just showed you. So I think it's this one right here, Quad C, Spring 2015. If I click on that and click Update, again, it's just under Data Properties. So Data Properties, where I found I just edited that. If I go back to that group page, so I'm just going to go back to that group I was in previously. You'll see that serial data set now pops up within that group. So again, the way to add things to that group is really just under the properties for these things, just say I want to share with this group in particular. So that's the way it's connected on this end. So again, by default, none of your data sets will be shared with the group, just like none of your data sets are shared with everybody. It has to be a conscientious choice by the user to say, I want this shared with this group in particular. Right here. So nothing crazy fancy, it's just kind of a common location for multiple users to come in. So basically you have three different ways for results to be saved, or results, data sets, surveys, all those things to be saved. One, you can just have it to where you only save it, so it's only saved on your account. That would be my StatCrunch, only you get that. Explore would mean I'm sharing with everybody. So anyone that's a StatCrunch user can access these. And the middle ground between those two is a group. So I create a group and then I just store things in that group, and that way only people in that group can see it. So it's kind of the three different ways that data is saved, or different ways to, or different locations to find information on StatCrunch. Okay, hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Again, I'm not going to create a group just because it's pretty straightforward and it's very similar to what we just did with reports and surveys in the last knowledge transfer session. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at some resources. We're going to go back to the application. I'm just going to talk about the things on the bottom right here. And then the last thing we'll talk about is how you import data into StatCrunch, because there's actually various ways to do that. So I want to make sure that's covered in some aspects. So I should be able to hit those all in the next 30 minutes. So resources. So there's several things that are useful, to, especially from a knowledge or a QA standpoint. You have our help documentation, our help examples, our YouTube channel. Not really anything that needs to be tested that necessarily. That's more of a content thing. These are just linking to the profiles on Twitter and Facebook where they'll blast out current updates. Pearson data sets, that's just a listing of a bunch of different data sets that Pearson textbooks. So for various Pearson textbooks, like for example, in the class I teach, I use this data set, or this textbook right down here. So this actually, if I link to this, this actually has all the different data sets used in that book. They're all put into StatCrunch. Again, not really anything from a QA standpoint that needs to be focused on. What we're focused on is these two things right here. So StatCrunch U and StatCrunch this. StatCrunch U, I'm just going to click on this. So again, that's under resources, and I just went down to StatCrunch U to get to this. So what this is basically is a virtual community of data. So Dr. West, the guy that created StatCrunch, he created a data set that is a hypothetical data set. It's a hypothetical university. This is a fictitious university with about 46,000 people in it. So he simulated 46,000 students and he gave them different characteristics, like what their gender was, classification, the number of credit hours, how many hours they worked per week, looked at the student loans, and also credit card debt. So what's one thing that needs to be tested here is if I click on a sample size, so let's say I want to sample 10 students from this fictitious university. If I click survey, What it's going to do is just going to randomly grab 10 students from that list of 46,000 virtual students. And for those, it's going to give me the answers to those 6 questions. So again, this is fictitious, but so I have looks from class year 1 to 4. So 1's freshman, 4 is a senior. Looks like I got more females than males. I have a number of hours there. They were taking classes, also the number of hours of working. And I have different information about various staff for that. So this is a nice little resource. Not a ton that needs to be tested. Basically, is it surveying correctly? So if I get 100, am I able to sample 100? And you'll see right here, this is technically this is an iframe right here that's storing the StatCrunch application. So this should be fully running. So if I decide I wanted to create a pie chart of gender, I can do that. So in this case, I got a lot more females than males in this sample. You can also save this data set so you can use it elsewhere. So something, I'm not sure how many people use this. I have seen professors in previous talks that decide to use this quite a bit, and they create projects based on this. And really from a QA standpoint, does it actually sample correctly is really all you're looking at. So pretty straightforward, not too much that can go wrong here. And that's StatCrunch U. The other thing that requires a lot more QA from the resources I'm going to focus on is the StatCrunch this. What this is something called a bookmarklet. So a bookmarklet is something that you can add into your bookmarks bar. So if we look over here, we'll actually see this right here under my bookmark bar. I'm actually going to move this over so you can see it better. So what I did is I'm in Chrome right now. I was able to drag it up into my bookmarks bar up here and create a bookmark for this. This one is one of the most popular features within StatCrunch. In particular, sales reps like to demo this because it's kind of a neat bell and whistle. It's a neat ooh and ah moment for people to where they can see something cool happen. The basic idea is you create a bookmark of this, and what happens is StatCrunch is going to search through a website and try to find an HTML5 table. If it's able to find a table, then it will grab the information from the table and pull it into StatCrunch. So what's neat about that is you're able to find data online, and from there you're able to grab it and put it into StatCrunch. So look at an example here. So I'm going to click on, let's just pick one of these. Let's look at tax rates of the euro. So this is a Wikipedia page here. So on this page in particular, you see this data set down here. So this is an example of an HTML5 table. Often if you see a table on a website, it's an HTML5 table, at least behind the scenes to some degree. So say that I want this data table in particular. What I can do is I can click on StatCrunch this, again, I add it to my bookmarks bar. And what you'll see there is it asks information. So I want to extract data from this page. Let's say I want to do that. Be number greedy, that just means it's going to convert things to number in a more aggressive way. So let's go and say extract data from this page. So again, if I looked at this first one, it has different countries, the tax rate and maximum income tax, all that information. You're able to see that pop up into this data set. So the first little window has that. Each one of these is an iframe, and so it's creating the application within a little frame within the window. You see additional tables also listed here. So any table, data table that I found in the page, it's going to pull that into StatCrunch. So a really neat resource. It's kind of neat to demo because you're able to quickly grab information from websites. So let me just do another one real quick. Let's look at fast food and nutritional facts compared. It's another quick example of this. So nice little data set here. You got the different types. So I think looking at French fries here in particular. We also have hamburgers. So we're looking at French fries for different groups, how big the serving size, calories, total fat, total saturated fat, all that information. Same particular, I want this data set, I want to look at it. If I click on StatCrunch this for this, say extract data again, and you're able to see, looks like in this case they're a little bit out of order, but here we go, we're able to find the French fries. So sometimes it's not in the exact order you would expect, but this is the French fries data set, and it's able to pull into StatCrunch. As far as is concerned on the testing side, I mean, this data is now in StatCrunch. I can now save it. I can now do whatever I want to with it. So I can save it to my file, and I can just say McDonald's, or let's say French fry. So I can open it in a separate window. If I look under my StatCrunch data, first thing will pop up is this French fries data that I just saved. So from a testing side, StatCrunch this, A, it needs to work on different websites, B, it needs to work on different browsers. So this is something that's a little more browser specific because of the way bookmarks are handled differently depending on Firefox, Chrome. So it's something that needs to be confirmed on those things. I think currently it does not work on mobile devices. I need to confirm that. Just from previous conversations, I don't think it works on mobile devices just because the bookmarklet doesn't have the capability within that. So just something to recognize also on this. But on any desktop or a laptop, it should be able to handle it and pull in the data from a page. Just because you see some data on a page doesn't mean we'll be able to handle it. Oftentimes too, like in this French fry data set, you'll see things that come in a little weird at times, like with these stars. So often it warrants cleanup. That should be expected. I mean, we're pulling in exactly what they give us on that HTML5 table. So if they have some weirdness in there, then we're going to pick up weirdness. So that's not unexpected. Just a matter of does it work and does it not break for different browsers. That's kind of the QA standpoint for this. It's a nice little resource to pull in data into StatCrunch. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to open up a data set in StatCrunch. So under my StatCrunch data, I'm just going to pull in, let's just use this auto testing data set. So from a QA standpoint, this is something we use for auto testing. I think Mark's probably talked to you about auto testing more so than what I brought up. And so the last few things, so we've basically on the website, just to give you a summary, we've looked to explore, we looked through all 4 or 5 of these options here, data, results, reports, surveys, and group suites today. We've gone through resources, support, just general help support, nothing crazy there. And really the 2 resources I wanted to highlight we were able to hit, so StatCrunch U and StatCrunch this are kind of the in particular ones that need to be brought up. StatCrunch this in particular is a popular one. So what we're going to do with the remaining few minutes here, I'm going to talk about the few things on the bottom here, these little icons down here, and then we'll talk about different ways to import data into StatCrunch. So this right here is exactly equivalent. This is just information blend, so view, edit data properties. It's exact equivalent of this right here. So data properties and this little I are exact same. So nothing special there. Just 2 different ways to get something that's really key is the properties of the data set. This one right here, so it's results for the data set. So let's say, let me just create a histogram real quick. So I'm just going to create a histogram of price. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to save that. Click save. I'm not going to share with everybody. I'm just going to do histogram demo. Again, you'll notice share with groups, so something that is relevant from earlier. So I could share this with my Quad C Spring 2015 group if I wanted to. So that'd be the way to share a result with a group. But let's say I don't do that for now. I'm just going to leave it like that. If I reload this page, what you'll notice for this, give me a second. You see that it went from 0 to 1. So what pops up there is any result that's connected to this data set. So again, my little demo, my histogram of price, I'm able to see that. So all this is really just keeping track of results shared by you, shared by others, and shared within reports for this data set. So it just keeps track of anything that's connected to the data set result-wise. It's a nice little area to find that. Comments. So comments for this data. So you can actually write a comment about it and post it on here. So let's just say it's used for internal. I'm just going to post that comment. But again, you just have a little comment thread that can happen for the data set. So you could add additional information or comments or questions about the data set here. So nothing too crazy there. Other people can comment on the same data set as a result. So as long as they're connected to the same, the same data ID, they can then comment on that ID to where you as the original owner can see it. If I favorite this data set, basically you have the ability to add to favorites. And where that comes into play is if I go data, load, I think it's my data. You can also look at shared data, public data. We basically have a list that's created of public or shared or favorited data sets, something that's relatively recent. And then there's to tell others about it. So if I shared this data set, it would give me different ways to show it. So let me actually look at a data set that is shared. So let me go to one. I'm pretty sure that is shared. I think this one is shared. Actually, maybe not. Hold up. This one's probably shared. So you can see some people favorited this data set. So this data set is favorited by 3 people. You see a couple of the comments connected or the results connected to it. So someone else actually created a result connected to this data set. You can see one that I created. And then tell others about this. So it just gives you different ways to share this data set with other people. So a lot of different versions of ways to do this. So I can email it, I can Twitter it, I can email it through Google. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this. So it's just interactivity to other websites. So I could post it on Facebook if I want to or Twitter. And that's basically it. Honestly, this is used quite a bit. Properties are a very big key. You'll see some people share results for a data set. Not super common, but it's something that's done. Not by every user, but all people do that. These last 3 aren't as commonly used. So maybe that's something we try to highlight more in the future, but the favoriting method, the comments, and the sharing are not things I see as commonly from our user base. All right, so that's the bottom menu right there. So the last thing we're going to cover is just ways to get data into StatCrunch. So I'm going to open up a blank window for this. The ways to get data into StatCrunch. So the first is to load from various resources. So you can load from my data, my groups. Let's say in particular I want to load from Google Drive. So StatCrunch, just by the way, so StatCrunch handles copy and paste, so you can just paste data directly in. You can load from an external resource like Google Drive or Dropbox. You can also load from file, or you can drag and drop from file. So quite a few different ways to load data. So if I'm looking at the load from Google Drive here. So what I can do is I can look at my Google Drive and see if there's any data sets that are connected to it. So I'm pretty sure I do have some. Let's just find something that's relevant here. Okay, let's look at this data set right here. So something we've used in the past internally. So what's going to do, I just selected a file. I'm just going to stick with the default. Let me just change the name. So demo from Drive. There's different options. So similar, you'll see a similar kind of listing here. So I can share with everybody. I can share with groups. I can add source material from Google Drive. This is a test, the description. And let's just say I'm looking for a rabbit today. So no really good rabbit. Here we go. We got a cute bunny there. I'm just going to load this file. So this data set was basically a previous way for us to track information. So we would track different features, different requests, different bugs that we had outstanding in the past. You can see that we stopped using this around 2013, so maybe into 2014 we use these. So I was able to load it successfully. The bunny has nothing to do with this data set, but regardless, we included a bunny for this data set. So that was how easy it is to add it from Google Drive, for an example. You also see, so pretty straightforward, I mean, it just loads the data correctly. You can also load from file using this, or from paste. From paste, it'd actually be easier just to directly load it. Let's say I want to load from file. I'm going to do it on my computer. So it's neat, we have two different options. You can drag a file into this little drop area, or you can just choose a file. So let me find, I should have plenty of files to check. Granola comparison, I think it's pretty good. Okay. So what I did was, again, I just choose a file. I chose a file. What's nice is it'll give you the first 5 lines of that file. So that's useful in that it gives you a preview of what you're pulling in. So sometimes if it's not a XLS file, so a Excel file, if it's just a text file, let me try one of those real quick. So that was an Excel file. It's pretty obvious what's, well, actually it's SES file. So it's pretty obvious what it is. SES stands for StatCrunch session file. Let me just find a useful CSV file under my groupings here. It's all website. Let me just find someone I know has good connection to it. Here we go. I think this should be useful. So it's some information on housing for a different file. So this was a CSV file you'll see right there. By default, it'll just put the name of the file as for the name. You can obviously change this if you want, so I want to Reno CSV. What's nice about this preview is it gives you the option of using the first column as a column name. So it decides if are you going to put this first row, I should say, in the column names, or are you going to put it as the first row of the data set. So I can actually change that and you'll see how it's different. So in this case, I'm just putting these all into rows. Really, this should be a column header. What's happening behind the scenes is we're actually sniffing out. So if we see a file that's not an Excel file, we're going to actually try to sniff out the best version for that, or the best delimiter for that. So in this case, we thought it was comma, we correctly identified that. Let's say I decide no, it's tab. You get a preview of what it would look like if we import it as tab. So in this case, it'd all be one column. Not something that's relatively useful in this case, but for other data sets, it might be you want to change the delimiter or something different than what we sniffed out. So this was a CSV file, so comma was the correct choice. I'm just going to go and click the load file. Give it a second. So the reason why this takes a delay is what's doing is it's actually bouncing off the server for this. So we were able to load the information, identify it here, and now it has to bounce off the server, it has to get saved on the server, and then it comes back down to the client. So it creates a new file, a new ID. So these IDs are a unique number of files. So technically in StatCrunch right now we have a total of, so right now in StatCrunch we have a total of 1 million files saved. You can just tell that by this ID number. So there's over 1 million new IDs. And you can see that file loaded in here correctly in this case. So basically, there's 2 different ways where you can just load using a, you go into a separate page that will load from file, or load from Dropbox, or load from Google Drive. The simpler way is just to use a raw application. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open a file. And I'm just going to open a text file here. So let me just look for another CSV or a tab or something else file, some raw text file. Let's look at this one right here. So there wasn't anything in that one. Okay, I'm going to open this with just a text editor, just to show an example. Okay, so this is a comma delimited file. It looks like it's looking at smoking percentages, other statistics based on year. So what you could do, I mean, you could just load this into StatCrunch directly using the data load from file, and it'll be able to handle it correctly. It will sniff it out to be the correct delimiter. What I could do too is StatCrunch is actually pretty smart in the raw application. Let's say I just want to copy this, and I'm going to click right here. I'm going to paste it. So what you'll see there is it's actually able to sniff out what it was. So by default, StatCrunch is laid out in tabs format. So any kind of data structure is usually in that tabs format or data table. But it was able to read this file when I pasted it and recognize this does not look like a tab. This actually looks like something different. So I was actually able to recognize that it is comma delimited. And if I wanted to go back to tab, I could do that. This message will only pop up when I paste something that is clearly not a tab. So this will not pop up unless it has good enough reason to anticipate something besides tab for the data. So I click on OK. You'll see that it loaded correctly, the data I have over here on the right side. So again, that paste message that we just saw, I'm going to just do it again. Put it down here instead. This pops up anytime that something's pasted into StatCrunch, and it's going to, anytime something's pasted into StatCrunch, it's going to read it. And if it sees enough evidence to indicate that it's not a tab delimited version of data, then it's going to then read it differently. It's going to try to handle it differently. Testing side, this is something that definitely needs to be tested quite a bit because we have our own sniffer for how we identify if something's comma, if it's something's tab, if something's semicolon. It's something we added on top in about a year and a half ago, I would say. So it's something that we try to make to be versatile. So any kind of copy and pasting, really, if you're copying data in, it should handle it pretty well. So the last way to add data to StatCrunch, it's actually kind of the funnest way. I like copying and pasting in directly. You just kind of skip the middleman. What you can also do is you can actually just drag a file directly in here and drop it in there. So let me go ahead and find an Excel file. Again, .ses. I'm not sure we've talked about this in previous case here. Mark has, but that's a StatCrunch session is what it is. If we need to talk about that in the future, just let me know. That's something that's a really new feature for StatCrunch. And what I'm looking for is an Excel file, so why get a degree? So what I'm going to do is instead of just copying and pasting this in, which I could do, or I could load it from data load, when we do something that's another new feature, or relatively new, less than a year and a half old, I'm just going to drag this in. You'll see this message pop up. Since I drag this in, it says it can drop files, and it tells you the different formats. ODS is open. I forget what it stands for, but it's based on Google Docs. CSV, TSV, and text, those are both text files, all three of those. And these are different types of Excel files. So this is an XLS. So what I'm going to do is just going to drop this in there. It's going to process it, and it's just going to put it in. So that was a really boring file. Let's say I want to do, I think this one's actually more interesting. You can see a preview over there. I'll drop this in. So again, I just drag and let go. It's going to process it. It's going to give you a preview of it. If you don't want to load that, that's okay. If you say load, it's going to load it to the end of the file. This is definitely something that definitely needs testing. So this should work on just about every browser. If I drag and drop any kind of file that's appropriate, it should handle it. So again, another file here, an XLSX file. I'm going to drop it in, go process it, and I'll be able to load things. Likewise, this should be able to fail gracefully. So let's say I'm trying to load a PNG. StatCrunch is not meant to handle a PNG or a image file for data sets. It makes no sense for you to drop a PNG into StatCrunch, right? Let's say I do that anyways. So when I say fail gracefully, it means that if someone enters something or drops something in that is not ideal, it should be able to handle it correctly again. So in a graceful way. So I drop this in. It gave me a message, the foreign file cannot be loaded. So that's the appropriate message for this. So let's say I try to drop this zip file in. So again, it's not something that should be handled. Zip is just a compressed file that should not be handled. It's going to try to process it, but again, it'll fail gracefully. It'll say, when I say fail gracefully, it's not really failing. It's just saying, it gives you an alert that this is not possible. So you're giving me something that's bad input. Neat thing too is you're actually able to load multiple files at the same time. So something else to check here. If I click on 2 right here, so I have highest grossing animated movies and I have average gas prices. I'm dropping 2 in at the same time, right? So what's going to do is it's going to load the first file, so I can give information on that. I'm going to say load data, and then it'll give me information on the second file. So that works well. Let's say I just do the same thing. I'm going to load this file and this CSV file, or this zip file. So it loads the XLS, and then it gives me an error on the one that was incorrect. So technically, you could load dozens of files at the same time. So if I have a data set that's broken down into 10 files, I can just click and drag all 10 of them and drop them in here, and it'll just systematically go through each one. So it's another kind of area where QA is required to confirm that that's handling it correctly. So in summary, ways to get data into StatCrunch. The traditional ways, I say traditional, these are the more common ways you see people do this in the past, would be data load from file, from Dropbox, from Google Drive. These same kind of load web pages are also linked over here. So if I go to my StatCrunch data, you'll see different ways to load it right here. Those are the exact same kind of options that you'll see. So for my computer, that's from file, it's the equivalent. You can actually load from a web address too, so I can just put in a URL for a web address that contains a Excel file or a text file, and I'll be able to handle it. You'll see Dropbox. We actually need to add one for Google Drive. Actually, Google Drive's right there, so never mind, we're good. So those are the same things as you're seeing over here: load from file, from Dropbox, from paste, those kind of options. The 2 other ways is one, just to copy and paste something in. So again, if I just blank this thing out. Just a quick summary. Let me just do an Excel file real quick. So again, I can just take this, I can just copy and paste it in, and we'll be able to handle it. In that case, you didn't see any message because, let me actually just do the full file just for clarity's sake. In that case, you don't see any message because we're using the same delimiter behind the scenes. So they're using tab, we're using tab. So there's no reason to give them a message since we read it as something that was in the same format as what StatCrunch is saying. Again, tab delimited is the default for these kind of data tables. But you can also copy and paste in things that are tab delimited, and it should be able to handle it well as long as it's delimited somehow, has some way of being structured into a data table. So again, you have load from file, you have copy and pasting directly in, which is something I typically do more than anything else because it's just the easiest thing. But also, you can just download a file and you could just do this number, just drag it in here. And again, we'll process it, we'll read the file, we'll try to figure out, in this case, it's CSV, so it's going to come out as comma. But you can change that if you want, so I can just make this semicolon for some reason. I'm not sure why you do that, but you could if you want to. And so let's say I want to load it with a semicolon delimiter. Well, it's going to pop up as one column because it took all those, it didn't have any delimiters for it. But you can load it any way you see fit. So 3 ways to get data into StatCrunch. There's also the StatCrunch system, which we discussed earlier. So all these different pathways are pretty open box. I say open box in that they should be able to handle a wide variety of files on a wide variety of formats. There are areas that easily could have issues with them. So in the past, we've had several bugs that came up with the different versatile ways for loading data. So something towards the future we need to confirm still works well. An ongoing effort to have ease of data. Our ease of adding data, of finding data, of searching for data, of importing data is one of the big selling points for StatCrunch. So it's something that is a valuable thing for our sales team and just for how people like StatCrunch. It's a lot more versatile in that sense. So quick summary, today we covered the groups, we covered a couple resources, we covered these little menu items on the bottom of the page, and we covered how to import data in StatCrunch, just in case I hadn't covered previously. With that, I'm going to sign off. Let me know, Dalpidi or Udara, if you have any questions, especially about StatCrunch sessions. I'm not sure if Mark's covered that. That would warrant another KT session to just cover StatCrunch sessions. That's a brand new feature that is a big deal. It's a big jump to the future for us. to pushing the boundaries of what we used to do. So again, let me know if you have any interest in a StatCrunch session, knowledge transfer session. With that, I'll sign off. I appreciate your time, and let me know, especially Dara and Adopted, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and we can have a follow-up session to discuss those.